Welcome into season 22. It is Other People's Shoes. My name is Neil Matthews. If this is your first season or your 22nd season, hey, thanks so much for hanging out with me. We will celebrate 7 years at the end of this month. Wow, it's been a minute. As we start this new season and this new year, I just want to give a little disclaimer at the beginning of this specific episode. We're talking about some really hard stuff. Talking about somebody getting shot. We're talking about abuse. So I want to have some listener discretion advised. I know the music doesn't really dictate seriousness. I wanted it to sound a little happier. I want to welcome you into Other People's Shoes. As I said, season 22. Really excited about it. We're calling it Who's There? The whole idea, who's at your front door? Who's been knocking at that door of your life? Well, I have some amazing guests that are going to talk about how they've opened the door, what they've allowed in. You won't want to miss it. Stay tuned, because here comes Other People's Shoes. Feeling alone, overwhelmed? Low-key listening is here to help. Whether you want to vent, share your thoughts, or just have someone truly listen to you, we have real people standing by, ready to listen 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can download the app for free on Apple App Store or Google Play. Simply set up an account, find someone, and they will listen to what you have to say. You can actually even take voice memo notes and send them to the person. You can even text the person. Here's the best part. It is completely anonymous, not only for you, but the person listening. Because after all, don't we want somebody there willing to listen to us? Download the Low Key app today. Talk, be heard, and feel better. Low Key listening on your favorite app store.
They say opportunity knocks. But what if it's not opportunity? What if it's something or someone else? A familiar voice from the past, a chance you've been waiting for, a mistake you thought you left behind, or maybe something far bigger than you imagined. Some doors were open without hesitation, others will cautiously peek through, and some we wish had never answered. This season on Other People's Shoes, host Neil Matthews is asking one question. Who's there? Will you answer? Will you hesitate? Step inside season 22 of Other People's Shoes, where every knock holds a story, and every door leads to a choice. Now here's your host, Neil Matthews.
Welcome into Other People's Shoes. It's a brand new season. It's a brand new you. Welcome into 2026. How are you? Or as my old friend Neil Everett on SportsCenter would say, how's it? How's it in 2026? I know we're only like 7 days into the year. I gotta just say, I'm excited about this season. That is my friend Stuart, who has voiced our intro. He is not a trained professional. He is in my mind now. He is a very good friend of mine. I've known him for a long time, and his accent, let me tell you, that is authentic. It's not AI, and I've gone to church with him for a while. I was like, dude, will you voice my intro? And he's like, I'd be honored. And he does it in his accent. I can't even do it. I'm not even gonna try because it's wrong. I want to give a big shout out and a big thank you to him for doing that. Big part of the show. He's a big fan of the show. He even bought a hoodie. That's how big of a fan he is. Yeah, we have hoodies. You should buy one. I also want to say, because it is January 7th, and I would be wrong and I would be remiss if I didn't say it is the Queen's birthday today. Did you know? Queen Elizabeth. My Queen Elizabeth. It is her birthday today. So, sweetheart, thank you for listening each and every week. Thank you for supporting me emotionally, spiritually, with your heart. Thank you for still saying sure when I asked you to marry me. Thank you for saying sure when I asked you to be my girlfriend. And hopefully you will continue to say sure when I ask you to listen to a show, and especially this show today. Let me tell you, viewer and listening discretion is advised. I probably should say that at the jump. We got a big one for you today, and I'm really excited to sit with my new friend. She actually came to us from another friend, and that's our good friend Jennifer over at Grace Life Podcast. She said, Neil, you have to have this young lady on. She's going to knock your socks off. And I said, well, that's good because I have ankle socks, so they'll probably come off easily. I even read her book. I probably should tell you that too. It wasn't designed for me. You could still get something out of it even if you're a guy. But ladies especially, at the end, you're going to want to know how to get this book and get it in your hands, get it in your earbuds. This book is amazing, and she's an amazing woman to experience what she did. So help me welcome in my new friend, Kimberly, or as we like to call her because we're friends now, Kim. Kim, how are you today?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for having me. And happy birthday to your wife.
I had a lot of stuff to get in there. Sorry, it was a lot. 7 years, actually, at the end of this month, believe it or not.
It's a long time.
Is that? I know. I always pause when I say that. I was like, gosh, it's been a long time. We'll hit 400 episodes this year.
Wow.
come August. Counting that down already. I know it's only January. Never too early to start. Kim, help us with this because we love to lead every show with this question, and that's this. What style of shoe do you love to wear?
Oh, I'm actually a shoe person. I like all different kinds of shoes. They tend to be more of a high heel, middle heel. Shoes are my friend because I like to say, as a woman, that's the one thing. Shoes are one thing that'll always fit. Like we go through different seasons when our clothes may not fit. Shoes are our friend. I've got all sorts of shoes.
Do you have 80 pairs asking for a friend, not me?
80, maybe not 80, but maybe 79. You can never have too many shoes.
Again, asking for a friend, not me. Do you have a pair of shoes that sit on a shelf just for display purposes only?
Yes, I do.
Do you?
Yes, I do. I do.
Oh my gosh.
They
should talk.
are black polka dot high heels, and they have laces that go all the way up that I would break my neck in. Many, many years ago, I wore them. And I don't have the heart to get rid of them.
All right. Well, you can see it because we're on video together. No one else can see it. In the top part of our door jamb there's 3 pairs of shoes. The white pair of shoes was my wife's grandmother. She passed away. And when she passed away, I asked my wife's family if I could have a pair of her shoes for the studio. They obliged. So that's her pair. I have a pair of Vans that our logo when I first started reminds me of that logo. And I bought them used. Truly other people's shoes. The North Carolina Velcro shoes were the last pair of shoes I wore around my wife's grandmother, and she had a stroke, so faculties were kind of disjointed, and she was so enamored with the Velcro in my shoes that I stopped wearing them after she passed. Can't bear to put them back on again.
Yeah, what a way to honor her.
As I said already in my intro, long-winded monologue, I did read your book, and now every author that will come after you from here on out for the rest of the show will probably come back to this episode and go, wow, you read her book, Neil, but you won't read my book. Jennifer told me that the book was so amazing. I found myself at the end of every chapter, and I told you this before we started recording, that you have sections in the book that talk about this time of reflection. Pause and reflect, I think you actually call it. That's the phrasing you use. And to me, I think this is a great moment starting out our year to really pause and reflect on relationships that we have, the good in them, the bad in them, and let's be honest, even the ugly in them. And is there redeeming qualities and is there forgivable qualities in those relationships? I'm just going to give the real fast version of your life and then we'll kind of just talk about it. So you marry this guy, long time together, infidelity throughout, bad stuff going on. You end up getting a divorce and you're a Christian woman and there's the push and pull of that. Do I divorce? Do I not? I'm sure you had people in your ear saying you're not honoring God. And you made the decision to get a divorce and your dad even shows up the day you filed the papers, which I think is, again, made my heart sad. Your dad was probably there when you walked down the aisle to this guy. And that, to me, had its own dynamic and nuance and layers. And you end up dating somebody through dating apps, which I found hilarious. I've always joked that if anything happens to my bride, I'm probably going to become a hermit and move to North Carolina and be homeless, season ticket holder for the Tar Heels. So I don't know how all that works. I couldn't imagine living life without Elizabeth. You did it. You found a way to push that junk aside from that bad relationship, toxic relationship even, and started dating again, which I think, again, applaud. You find Prince Charming. Things are going well and things are progressing. And then the nightmare happens. The rug gets swept out from under you. The dream wakes up. Hallmark, it gets crushed. And your ex-husband comes in one night and breaks in, assaults you in all the ways that you can imagine. And let's just allow the imagination to wander because it probably happened. Your ex-husband does the unthinkable. He goes to this boyfriend that you have at the time and shoots him with the intent to kill. I mean, why else would you shoot somebody? Then that relationship dissipates in a sense. Why would somebody want to be with you if they almost get killed? No disrespect, Kim. Pick up where I left off.
You know, with all the podcast interviews I've done, you're the first that has narrated it back to me. And I'm sitting here holding my breath. It's like, wow, that's a lot. After my ex-husband broke into my home, like you said, I was assaulted for 4 hours. Then he kidnapped me and he took me to the boyfriend I had been dating. And let me say, both of us knew we were going to marry. We had only dated 4 weeks. I knew in my heart this was the man that I was going to marry. He didn't get shot just one time. He got shot 10 times. In the process of all that, I made an escape to a super center. Police were called. We ended up at 2 different hospitals. He was under an assumed name because it was a crime scene. I got the phone call from one of his adult children that said, we just think it's best if you guys go your own ways. And so, like you said, in the matter of hours, my whole world came crashing down. Our relationship, I would not hear from him again for almost 6 weeks. And so during those 6 weeks, I left the hospital and I went and I stayed with my parents just for the first few nights. But then I was given a home to live in for the summer. I had a relative that was going to Canada for the summer, and they said, just come stay at our home, make it your own. That is really where my healing journey began, kind of like where the shock is beginning to wear off. I'm realizing this is not a bad dream. I'm not going to wake up from this. This is my real life. Kind of where it picks up with where the healing actually began.
And in the book, by the way, listeners and future readers, I'm going to make it a future readers because they should read it. I love the scenes with you in the pergola. I absolutely I wept during some of those interactions where you're talking about, especially again, the end of the story. Maybe we should just tell everybody it ends in a happy ending.
It does.
That especially on that wedding day, when you married this Prince Charming, as I'm calling him, that you went there on your wedding. That was a weepy moment for me. Is when you go there on your wedding day and you have that last dance. You talk about that.
When I saw this pergola, it was a great had big, huge rafters, 2 swings, and a big cement floor. And during that summer, during that healing process, it began with me face down, just weeping. I told the Lord, I said, I don't have any words to pray. I am totally empty. And so I'm asking the Lord to really sing life back into my body. Then I go into what I know to do, and I begin trying to control things, tell God what to do, when to do it, how to do it. And I say, oh, but I trust you. Then I tell my friends, this is what you should pray, how you should pray, trusting God. I realized that I really wasn't trusting God. I got to a real honest moment where I told the Lord I was scared to trust him. What if he didn't give me what I wanted? How often do we do that with our dreams and our plans? I said, I'm scared to trust you. I made a choice and a decision. And I said, Lord, as a sign, a physical sign of my choice, I am saying and declaring, I will trust you. I put myself in like a waltz dance position because I had heard a song on my playlist that was called Dance With Me, a Lover of My Soul. And it's about the Lord coming and wooing us and protecting us. And so I would close my eyes and I would imagine myself being held in the arms of Jesus. And I would just waltz around that cement floor. And at the end of a 3.5 minute song, I would always bow my head at the end of it and actually even curtsy. And it was like a declaration of, Lord, I'm choosing to trust you. By the time it was the end of the summer and the man survives, he contacts me. We end up getting married 6 months later. The day of my wedding, when we go through hard things, that's when we tend to really press in, pray, and Lord, talk to me, and I'm here and I'm making all of this a priority. Then life gets going good and we tend to get kind of like complacent in our faith. I prayed and I said, Lord, I never want to lose this closeness with you that I have felt. And so the day of my wedding, I woke up, it was like 6 o'clock in the morning. By this time, my uncle and aunt were living back in their home. I was somewhere else. Called them and I said, okay, shut the windows. Don't call the police if you hear a noise. It's just me. Kind of embarrassed. I'm like, but don't look and see what I'm doing here. I put that song on, Dance With Me, a Lover of My Soul. I prayed. I started my wedding day morning with the Lord, and I was dancing for an audience of one with all of heaven witnessing it. That evening, I ended my wedding day in the arms of my husband at our wedding in a dance between he and I.
You talk about going there on that wedding morning. There's a line in your book, and I think you're actually quoting Psalms. You say, there's joy in the morning. I'm not an often person to sit and take notes of a book that I'm listening for, and I rarely write questions ahead of time for guests. That's never been my style. I wrote questions for you, Kim, because I wanted to make sure my curiosity didn't get away from me in our moment, but I also had some challenges, not from a rock throwing, not from a judgment standpoint, by no means, just from a standpoint, human to human, person to person, to understand the magnitude of what you experience. The sad part is, I would imagine you are not alone in what you experience, that there have been women like you through the years who have gone through and maybe even lost their life with the events that happen with you, through the power of the Lord, through the power of your faith, to walk through this experience. So you talk about the joy in the morning. Psalms talks about that. I'm struggling with that. Sometimes I can't find like my wallet or my cell phone or the pair of shoes that I want to wear that day, or God knows what. I can't find something. And so when the Psalms talks about you can find joy in the morning, I'm like, how did Kim find joy in the morning? And that was my very first thing I wrote down. How did Kim find that joy? Because I want to find it too every morning. And I bet you there's others that are like me. They're like, she found it. Where did she find it? Costco, Amazon? Was it Target? Like, where did she find it? Was it one of those quarter machines like we used to have in the old days outside of Kmart?
Joy was found in the morning. For me, it was a gradual process. The more time I spent with Jesus, the more I went to him with all my questions, with all my emotions. I would go and I would say, God, I'm so mad. I'm so mad at you. I don't understand why you didn't stop this. I don't understand the situation. I would go and I would tell him and I would pour out my heart rather than the Lord chastising me. It was like the Lord drew me near, and it was almost like when I'm saying, Lord, I am hurting, it was like he was wrapping his arms around me saying, I know. The joy that came in the morning was the more I pulled closer to Jesus. Jesus is that joy. And the closer I got to him, it doesn't mean I was just happy all the time. It just meant I knew that I held to the promises of God's word. So it wasn't what I felt. I would say things like, this is what I feel. However, this is what I know. So just like David in the Bible, when David would say, God, my prayers are going up to the ceiling and they're bouncing back down. I feel like you've abandoned me. That's how he felt. But he would end his Psalms by saying, but this is what I know. But God, you are holy. God, you are righteous. God, you are there. I would bring my feelings and I would say, Lord, this is what I'm feeling, but this is what I know. And the more I rehearsed what I knew the word of God said, the more I clung to that, the more life that became, the more hope that became instilled in me. I had to get to a place of just acceptance of saying, God, I may never understand why this happened. I may never understand anything good that can come of this. What I do know is that you're there. I do know that I can find happiness, but happiness is different than joy. Happiness comes and goes. Joy is a deeper root. It is like, Lord, I will put my joy in you. That was a daily healing process.
I think there's so many times in my life that I absolutely struggle to find him, absolutely struggle to find the joy in him. You're a big worship gal. You love singing, grew up singing as a child. You talk about that in the book and how you found some joy in that, some comfort in that. You may not have always been the greatest singer. You didn't care about that. And I love that you were transparent about that. You talk about Chris Tomlin, and it's a pet peeve of mine, this song. It's, if I ever meet Chris, I will politely tell him he wrote a sucky song, and then somebody told me he didn't write it. That's okay. He might as well have wrote it because it still sucks. And I'm saying sucks on purpose. I am. I'm sorry if the word sucks offends you. You probably want to find another podcast because that's probably a word I use a lot. Talk about this song, Good, Good Father.
Mm-hmm.
I hate it. We sing it in church. My hands go in my pocket. My phone might come out. I look everywhere but the screen. I don't sing it. I've even walked out of the sanctuary when we've sung it. I really don't like the song because I don't feel like he's always been the good, good father. And when I hear of stories like yours, I'm like, there's no way he's a good, good father. There's no way I would allow my daughter to walk through what you walked through. And I say this with respect. The man that did what he did to you wouldn't be breathing if he did that to my daughter. I'd be in jail, being candid, and he'd be dead. How do you respond to that?
I think I respond to that with God is not just good because of what he does for us. God is good because of who he is. A little bit of a word picture. And this is something that I wrote about in my book is sometimes when we say, God, I don't understand where you are, or we say, where is God when these bad things happen? But we say it more as an accusation, as God, you weren't there.
My hands up on that.
Right. So we're saying, God, you weren't there. Why weren't you there? In everything that I walked through, I knew God was there. I was laying on my bed after I had been assaulted, and I actually sensed a presence in the room, and it was a sad presence. Yet I knew it was the presence of God. I don't understand how things work, all the supernatural, because I do know that there's human will involved. God gave us human will. God gave my ex-husband human will. But I know that God was there standing right beside me. The word picture that kind of came to me is I thought about when my middle daughter was 5 years old and she was going to kindergarten to get her immunizations. And she's looking at me with crocodile tears in her eyes, looking at me like, Mom, why are you letting this happen? And I looked at her, I called her by name. I grabbed her hands tight. I got my face right in front of hers. And I said, Mommy is here and I am not going anywhere. I'm not leaving you in this room by yourself. There was a part of God was letting me know, I am Abba Father. I am walking with you. I am not leaving you. Psalm 23 says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'll fear no evil because I'm with you, not because I'm not going to walk through it. For me, when I talk about God being a good father, it's his presence is there. I can run to him just as I am with every ugly thought I may have, every emotion, and he loves me in spite of, and he's not going anywhere. So for me, even walking through everything I've walked through, no one could convince me that he's not a good father.
There's some things I just will never understand. Isaiah hit it on the head. The book of Isaiah. His thoughts are not my thoughts. His ways were not my ways. And I'm just like, yeah, because my thoughts are evil sometimes. My thoughts are anger. My thoughts are frustration. My thoughts are, the heck you're going to do that to my daughter? At our church, we had our men go through this study. It was really dumb. They challenged us and some people cried, and I'm not saying I was one of them, maybe. The big thing that they taught us in this class that I'll probably never forget as long as I live is that your wife is God's daughter. And how are you treating God's daughter? And the minute I started using that type of language, my view of my wife changed. The way I treated her changed. The way I talked to her changed. Everything about my marriage changed truly because of that phrase. And when she maybe does something that I don't like, which is never, of course, because she's perfect in every way, like Mary Poppins, they measured her, it's true. It changed the view of it. It changed how I reacted to her. I was like, well, wait a second. That's God's daughter. I can't talk to her that way because it's God's daughter. I want him mad at me.
Yeah.
These are all the things that stop me in my track. Pause, come back to the book in a couple of days and then continue. You find what you focus on.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me think of my favorite line from The Shack, which I know people hate The Shack, but I love it. In The Shack, it talks about, all you see is your pain, you'll never see me. That's the line from The Shack that I just love. Kind of made me think of that. And that's why I had to stop and pause and put the book aside for a second and then pick it back up again. Where does that line come from for you? When again, you will find what you focus on. Where does that come from in you? Was that your idea or someone else's?
I want to be careful I don't claim something I've heard somewhere else.
Right, of course.
I think it came from in my practice as a marriage counselor. I do a lot of marriage counseling. And I would say, okay, if I asked you what your partner did that bugged you, you could probably give me a whole long list. When I ask you, what do they do that is positive, that shows you love? What are those? And I actually use an exercise called Catch Your Partner Pleasing You. And so I'll say for 2 weeks, keep track every single day. What's one thing that my partner has done that has made me feel loved or I can receive love from? And what's one thing I've done for them? It's usually their favorite homework assignment I will give them because they will come back and they will say, okay, when I was looking for it, they will have these lists. I'll ask, why did you notice it? And they're like, because I was looking for it. That's where I began to talk about the things that we look for, we will find. Let me go back to your previous thing. It's like, okay, where's God? I began asking, Lord, where were you? I began thinking, you know what? You were in a late night text when a friend would text me late at night with a scripture. You were there with the woman that would bring me meals. You were there in favor at my work. Jacob says in the Bible, after he wrestled with the angel in the morning, he says, surely the presence of the Lord was here and I didn't even know it. And so sometimes when we stop and say, okay, God, you may not have shown up the way I expect you to. And that's where our disappointment comes in. You didn't do what I wanted, but when I can look and say, where were you? Last week or the week before, my doctor actually retired and I went in for a last appointment. I don't even know if she's Christian. I want you to know something. When people say, where's God when bad things happen? You were part of his hands and feet for me because you made me feel safe at a time I didn't feel safe. So I think that when we begin to look for, okay, God is in so many different areas that we don't even realize. lies.
George Strait has a great song, I Saw God Today. And it's little ways that he saw God, whether it be a flower growing, a woman pregnant, a sunrise, a sunset. If we're looking for him, we're going to find him. And maybe that's the problem sometimes in my life and maybe in others is we're not always looking for him. I can look for a great deal on eBay on a pair of shoes. I can do that real good. I can find it. I don't always see his blessings. I don't always want to see his blessings. And maybe that's it, is maybe some of us are in a fight with him.
Well, and when you say that, it reminds me a little bit of a story that I think I share in my book of my son. I was probably kindergarten. It was our normal routine that he would always hold up his fingers in the I love you sign. And he would, every day before he walked in, he would hold his I love you up and he'd beam and he'd wiggle his little fingers to show me I love you. And of course, I would return that. And this one day, he was mad at me for something. I don't even remember what it was. That day, he held his hand straight at his side, and I could tell he was mad at me, and he was not going to show me his little fingers that said, I love you. And in that moment, he was mad at me, and he felt disconnected from me. But I never disconnected from him. I wasn't mad at him because he was mad. I wanted to scoop him up in my arms and say, I got you. It's okay. I love you. I'm not changing. And that goes back to that question about God being the good father. It's okay that I may feel frustrated or angry or upset at times. God doesn't change.
All right, so I might need your help with this big time. All I wrote down was voicemail analogy. I'm an imagery guy. I'm a story guy. I love a great story. I love to tell stories. Sometimes I add a little to them to make them more exciting. Hello, it needs some help sometimes. And being an old youth guy, you have to keep the crowd entertained. And somebody once called me a showman. I'm like, no, I'm just a really good storyteller. And they're like, that's sort of a showman. So because I think it's very applicable to the idea of connecting again.
I use the example of our hearts being like voicemail on our phone. When we look at our heart wounds, pains that we go through, especially in our youth, in our childhood and our youth is usually where these begin to get formed. Then anytime things happen in our life that are hard, painful, we get these beliefs. It's a voicemail. The devil leaves a message for us that says, nobody loves me. This will never get better. God hates me. He's punishing me. So whatever these messages are that get written on our hearts, we have a choice. We can hit play, then we can hit save and play it again later. Or we can actually hit delete. The Bible talks about taking every thought captive. It's because not every thought is from God. And I was just talking to my youngest daughter today about this. She was saying something about some negative thought she was having. And I said, well, I like to ask myself, would my Heavenly Father say that? Are those words that he would say? And she was like, no. Then that's when we get to delete. In this day of spam, the devil is not just a spam artist, he's a scam artist, and he tells us lies. And I use the word shame in my book because I was in my session with a client one time. I like to explain the difference between shame and guilt. Guilt is something feeling bad about something I did. Shame is saying I am something wrong. And so I was writing the word shame on my big whiteboard. And I wrote the first two letters, SH, and I just stopped in my tracks and I just felt just kind of I'll say it was a Holy Spirit moment when I looked at it. And the first two letters, SH, when you put them together, it's shh. And when we're saying shh, we're saying keep it a secret. Don't tell anybody. The first four letters are sham. The first four letters of shame are sham. Well, what is a sham? A sham is a lie. Shame are the lies that the devil tells us. He wants us to keep it secret. That's why he wants to isolate us when we've gone through hard things. He wants to isolate us so we can believe the lies he's telling us, so we can partner with those lies. Actually, okay, how do I hit delete? How do I say, you know what? I know you're spam. I'm not even going to answer the phone. So I don't have to believe everything that my brain tells me. It's really filtering that. Is this God's truth or is this a lie?
I love that. And that's why I wanted you to bring it up, because you could do it better than I could. And I appreciate that. Especially with technology now, the way it works. I have AT&T. I'm not afraid to admit it. I wish they'd send me some money because I love AT&T. I love me some AT&T. They're blocking out calls now. They come up on your caller ID as spam, or this could be a spam call, or even emails that come through. This may be a spam spam email. I love that. It's weird because when it comes from the enemy, the intruder of our life, the disruptor, the door kicker in our life, we're like, I'll entertain that spam call. I mean, there's a great comedian that has an amazing sketch when he's like, you ever see a number come through you don't recognize? I'm one of those guys, I answer it. And he has this whole, it's a funny skit, monologue, and the budget's out of whack. Point is I love that you're saying that. So many times in our life, we accept the spam.
Mm-hmm.
We accept the fact that our Apple ID has been compromised or that we're going to go to jail because there's an arrest warrant out for us. And we're like, oh my gosh, we start panicking.
Right.
And it's like, it's not real. It's not real.
It's only as real as the power we give it. If I get into that panic and I begin to ruminate, almost like if you're old enough to remember those chia pets, the little chia pets.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the chia. You pour the water on it and the plant begins to grow and grow and grow. And that's really what happens is, what am I pouring water on? What am I allowing to grow? And when I have these negative beliefs, if I can stop them and say, hey, I'm going to pour Roundup on that. I'm not going to put fertilizer on it. I'm not going to let it gain where it grows bigger and bigger and bigger inside me. It's how can we catch these, cut them off at the root?
Well, I hate yard work. I hate pulling weeds. It's the worst. I hate getting my hands dirty. I just hate sweating. Nobody likes to play in the mud. I'm not one of those people. These hands weren't made for yard work, by the way, Kim, in case you're wondering. During the attack, during the aftermath, during everything, maybe even prior, with your husband, with your marriage, infidelity that came, the abuse, the thing that got me is your ability to forgive, which I don't know how, still don't know or understand that. You mentioned, I'm pretty sure in the book somewhere, I don't remember where, but I wrote it down, so it had to be in there somewhere. Maybe I just thought of it. I know in Ephesians, I'm a Bible guy myself, Awana kid. That's how I made my decision for Jesus, was the Awana aisle. Grew up in the church, became a pastor, a little bit of my background. Part in Ephesians in chapter 6, verse 12, it says, not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers and the powers and the darkness of principality. During that whole process with your ex-husband, I'm sure you're super spiritual and you're super Christian girl. You probably have like a CS on your chest somewhere underneath. You come from a different planet. You're just cut from a different cloth, that you're able to just realize and recognize in the moment when you're getting assaulted and beaten and all the things that happen to you. You're able to just sit back and be like, oh, you know what? This isn't him. I'm warring against powers and rulers and principalities. This isn't the blood and the flesh that I'm warring against, because you were able to set all that aside and remember that in the moment.
No. Absolutely not.
Oh, come on, Kim. You were, I'm sure.
Nope. In that moment, I was angry. I was scared. I was fearful. I had every emotion probably repeatedly on repeat. But when you talk about forgiving, I do. And most people have heard the terminology about hurt people.
Oh, yeah. I've said it.
First of all, I have been a therapist for almost 18 years. Now, at that time, it had been probably more like 11 years. And so I've walked many people's journeys with them when they've been through pain, and walked people through the process of forgiveness. It wasn't like just one day I wake up and I just feel like, hey, this would be a good idea to forgive. My temperament, my personality is, I did not want to stay in a position of feeling like I was a victim. Tell the story of how I went to the courthouse afterwards, and there was a piece of paper because I had to write statements, and it would say victim sign here. And I decided very early on, these horrible things had happened to me, but this was not going to be the defining moment of my life. And when the detective came to the emergency room, she asked me a year and a half later when I met up with her, she said, do you remember what you told me in the emergency room? And I said, no, I'm sorry, I don't. And she said, you looked at me and you said, I won't let this experience go to waste. I'm going to be a better therapist because of this. My daughter said, Mom, do you remember what you said to me in the emergency room? You looked at me and you said, promise. And that's because I have seen firsthand with working in therapy and clients how unforgiveness and bitterness destroys, and it eats us up. The day my ex-husband, he had assaulted me, it was right before he kidnapped me. And he told me, he said, tell me the truth. I've gone too far. You could never forgive me. Our marriage had been marked by me forgiving and forgiving and forgiving and forgiving for indiscretions. Now, it was not marked by good boundaries. So there's things that I wish I had done differently in a healthier way. This you couldn't forgive. I thought for a moment and I looked up at him and I said, you're right. You've gone too far. There's no going back. I said, I'll tell you, I will forgive. Now, that didn't mean that day I forgave. That day, there was lots of emotions going on. It was a process. When we harbor unforgiveness, everybody was like saying, hey, I had a pardon. If I wanted to be angry and bitter and a victim the rest of my life, lots of people would have said, well, you deserve that. When we get into anger and unforgiveness, I like to say it's like an umbilical cord between you and the circumstance, the person, the institution, whatever has happened. Unforgiveness actually ties me to that. And so when you think about an umbilical cord is supposed to bring life and nutrition, it's like it steals life out of you because your brain has to remember, well, what happened? Why am I angry? Why was I the victim? So I'm keeping it alive. Almost like I get in my car, and if I'm in anger and unforgiveness, that person is in the back seat with me. When I'm going in life, everywhere I turn around, whatever happened, that's with me. Only we can make that choice to cut the umbilical cord. And when we do, it frees us. It's not about freeing the other person. It's about freeing me. And I didn't want to wear a name tag that said angry, broken, unforgiving. I didn't want this to be my defining moment. I wanted my name tag that I wore to be, I am a forgiving person. I am healed. I am whole. And I don't know that we can totally really be whole without forgiveness. It's always that one piece that holds us to the past. If I want to move forward, I've got to cut that cord. Let me also say it was not a feeling. Too many people get caught up that I don't feel like it. Forgiveness was not a feeling. It is not a feeling. It's a choice. We're just waiting until we feel like it. Stop now because it's not going to happen.
Our show last year, a guest I thought I would never have an opportunity to sit with. Amazing woman. God just wires women differently than men. You guys bear children. We can't compete with that. You guys could do cooler stuff than we do. Her name's Kathy Sanders. Her grandkids were killed in the Oklahoma City bombing. And she unequivocally will not shy away from sharing. She forgave Timothy McVeigh. She forgives Terry Nichols. Pen pals Terry Nichols. She even had Terry Nichols' son at her home and took him down to the memorial that they have in Oklahoma City because he wanted to see it. She took him down there. When I think about people like that and people like you, Kim, again, I'm not trying to elevate you or make you messianic or angelic. I don't understand it. It's like trying to explain a sunrise to somebody that's blind, trying to have Helen Keller do long division. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Helen Keller. I'm just saying I don't get it. I don't get how it works. I fasted last year for 4 days. And in that fast, God revealed to me 3 seasons about my show. I don't know why he gave them to me. I truly believe they were from him. I'm not that creative. One, we had a season called Hungry, talking about people, what they're hungering for and thirsting for, and maybe food's a part of it. Maybe it's success. Maybe it's other things. This season, you're in right now of Who's There, a little bit from that because I had a Jehovah's Witness who was going around door knocking on people, and I thought, man, who would be at my door? Who do I want at my door? Do I want Jesus or do I want something else? In your case, there's no way you wanted your ex-husband at your door. There's no way. But it happened. And even Satan, I think, was part of that. Let me see if I can destroy this child of God. See what happens. You even talk about being like a modern day Job in some respect. Is it ever going to end? The other season that came out of this, which maybe fits into a little bit of your story too, that's going to follow you. I'm going to tell you right now, here it is. Next season after Who's There, I'm calling it The List. And it's about people that we've put on this fictitious list or maybe a physical list. I'm not talking about a hit list of people who have hurt us, people who have wronged us, people who have disappointed us, people who, in my words, and through my wife as well, happy birthday again, my wife said, you know, babe, you have a tendency of when someone hurts you, you write them off. You're done with them. You put them on a list. They stay there forever and they can never get off of it. Now, I know you're a therapist, so I'm going to lean into this portion of your brain and this facet of your life. What would be the danger if you had put your ex-husband on your list? If you had put maybe the detectives and the law enforcement and the people that maybe failed you along the way in that process? Because I'm sure there was maybe some mistakes that were made. Again, not throwing rocks. Reality of life. People are not perfect.
If I had made a list, I'd be at the top of it. When we talk about people that we're holding anger or frustration or unforgiveness towards, I had to work through forgiveness towards myself. The expectations I had put on myself, going back to when I got divorced, I told myself I was a failure. I told myself God could never use me again. I had disappointed God. What I told myself. Now, those things weren't true, but I had to release those expectations of myself and be able to forgive my imperfections. Or it's like me expecting myself to be a perfect wife is not possible. I had to, in a way, forgive myself for I couldn't be the perfect wife. So I released that. When I'm talking about forgiveness, I'm talking about releasing, not condoning. And that's a difference. When someone forgives, it doesn't mean, now I love it that she's able to, the person you refer to, she's able to go and talk to the people that perpetrators. I've never talked to my ex-husband since that day. I can forgive, and it doesn't mean we have to be pen pals. It doesn't mean we have to be best buddies. Forgiveness doesn't mean I don't have boundaries. It is really looking at what are the boundaries that I need. And I can forgive somebody and say, our roads are parting, that you're no longer a part of my story. But I know I've forgiven when I'm not wishing them ill, when I'm not wanting punishment, when I'm not wanting revenge. Okay, when I can say our stories part, hey, God be with you. You're not part of my story anymore. And so I'm not harboring that. I'm not thinking about them all the time. I'm not remembering. And let me say, forgiveness isn't a one-time experience. Forgiveness, you can have a reminder of something and it stirs up all those emotions again. And in that moment, there's a choice of, I would remind myself, you know what? I made a choice to forgive that. That's under the blood of Jesus. And I'm not going there. And sometimes in the very beginning, when all those emotions were there, I would literally say out loud sometimes, I would say, I'm not going there. 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 And I wouldn't let my mind go to the ruminating and all the hurt. So forgiveness doesn't mean I don't have boundaries. It's not like a cookie cutter. It's just saying I'm releasing them from me being the one that's going to bring justice, punishment. And I'm saying, I'm not going to let you have that hold on me. God is a righteous judge. It's like, God, you do that. Unforgiveness, we're fair. And I think of, isn't that what Jesus could have said when he was on the cross? He could have said, Father, it's not fair. I didn't do anything. They're getting away with it. Instead, he took our sin on him and said, Father, forgive them. That's the part of, it's not the feeling, it's the choice. When I made a choice to forgive, okay, I began to, when ruminating thoughts wanted to come, one is either pray. I would either listen to praise and worship music. I would say out loud, I'm not going there. I release them. I forgive them. It doesn't mean my feelings followed immediately. It's a part of, again, just that myth that I haven't forgiven if my feelings aren't following. It is a work in progress, and it's layer by layer, by layer, by layer. And there may still be on the anniversary date of when everything happened, and I can have a thought of something, I can remind myself, I make another choice today to forgive again. It's not that once and done. I just don't want to take it with me. I don't want that in my backseat of my car. I want my grandbabies in the backseat of my car.
There would be millions, and maybe not millions, maybe a few that would say, hindsight being 2020, maybe you go back in time and don't marry this monster of a human being. If that happens, you don't have the kids you have potentially. And there's just that butterfly, Back to the Future weird effect.
Let me clarify too. We were married 23 years. During that time, there was no domestic violence in our home. This was the act that he did was a monstrosity. Through the years, there were good years in there. I don't want to put a label that it was just this monster. There were good years. If I could go back, I think if any of us had hindsight, we'd look back and do things differently to get the life I have today with my children, my grandchildren. If this is what it took for my life today, I would do it again in a heartbeat. What the devil means for evil, God uses for good if we allow that. Now, we have a part in that. I have to allow that to be made good. Otherwise, I can just keep it in that evil and I can become a part of that to release and say, God, I don't understand. I'm going to trust you.
Being a therapist, would it have been difficult to counsel somebody like you in those early days, do you feel like? Did you become this dual role of counseling yourself?
When everything happened, the second day, one of the first calls I made was to my pastor and his wife. And the second call I made was to a Christian therapist and try and use all my skills. And I do on a regular basis. I knew I needed somebody to walk with me, just walk alongside me in this journey. I just want to make sure that as I'm doing this healing work, if there's an objective person that's got wise counsel that can keep me going, that's what I needed. That's why I am a big proponent of getting a good Christian counselor that can have wisdom, pastoral counselor, pastor. Now, sometimes depending on what it is you're needing, we're talking about trauma. I always go back to let's get a licensed professional counselor who's trained in trauma. There are skills and tools. Yeah, I put myself in therapy right away, even though I knew, okay, I know why they're asking. And I had to put my brain in neutral. It's like, okay, right now I'm the one that's sitting here and I got to let myself receive.
Is there any part of the book that you were apprehensive about sharing?
I think the only part I was really apprehensive about sharing was in the chapter where I give kind of like a high level detail what happened that morning that I was assaulted. I was very careful how I shared it because I didn't want to demonize. I didn't want to tell anybody else's story but mine. I didn't want to get so caught up in the details. For me, the story wasn't about being hurt. When I was writing my book, I wanted it to be, hey, I want you to know that I get it. In fact, statistics show, I wrote the book specifically for women, although men have read it. Statistically, over 50% of women will walk through at least one traumatic event in their life. Unfortunately, so many don't share it. There's that feeling of being alone. Nobody would understand. We're caretakers of others. That's why when I was going through what I did, more than anything, I wanted somebody that was a step ahead of me that could say, you know what, you're going to be okay. That's what I wanted to do is I wanted to be that person that pulled back the curtain. As a therapist, it was a hard decision to write the book. We typically don't tell our stories. I wanted to say, I'm going to pull back this curtain and say, I do understand. I'm not just telling you about tools and tips and techniques to heal. I've used them too. And I wanted to gain the trust of my reader. I tried to handle it very wisely, very delicately. I didn't want to re-traumatize anybody. Again, I wanted to be truthful. That was probably the hardest chapter I wrote.
What do you love most about Andrew, your now new husband, as I call him, Prince Charming?
Oh, I love so many things about him in that he is literally feels so much of God's love through him. He's got the biggest servant's heart. He loves my children. He's a good grandfather. He's humble. My dad was telling me the other day, he said, when I think of Andrew, I think of the scripture. I think it's in Micah that talks about the man that walks humbly with God. And he said, my husband doesn't look for credit. He's not a look at me. He's behind the scenes and he's cheering me on. He's an amazing man.
I applaud him for honoring what he said. You asked him, would you fight for me?
Yeah, neither one of us knew what that meant.
Yeah, I don't think you did. Yeah, absolutely. Kim, I'm curious about this. If people want to know more about not only your work therapy-wise, but the book, all the things Kim, I call it now, I'm using a word that I really love, the Kim ecosystem. I'm trying it out this season. We're calling it an ecosystem to make it easy. The Kim ecosystem, and how can folks find it easily and all the things, Kim?
Yeah, the easiest thing to do is go to my website, KimberlyHaar.com, and Haar is spelled Haar. And on there, it's got all the links to my social media. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, free newsletter. I love giving away free resources. You can buy my book there. So just head to KimberlyHaar.com.
And is there a social media you love to hang out on the most, or you're not that gal? It's okay if you're not. Some people are. So
I like it. Am I good at it? No. I'm a little bit better than my 81-year-old mother. Not a lot better. I probably post more on Instagram. I'm lazy enough that says, okay, whatever I post on Instagram, just put that on Facebook. I probably like Instagram.
You're not dancing on TikTok, not singing?
I don't understand TikTok.
Same.
I need to hire somebody to come teach me TikTok.
Same. My wife's on TikTok all the time. She doesn't post anything. She just sends me all the reels and things. And she's like, usually they're on marriage and the husband's not picking up.
Yeah, I haven't figured TikTok out.
Yeah, same. So we're in the same boat. Kim, I feel like we need a little bit of fun and excitement. And so we call this little game we do at the end of the show. It's called Heal Hustle. My good friend Zach, I have a lot of friends apparently. He's going to tell us more about Heal Hustle. Zach, take it away.
It's now that time in the show to play the fastest growing game in the podcast world. We call it Heal Hustle. Today our guest will try to answer all 6 of these questions in 60 seconds or less to win a prize from our prize closet. Audience, feel free to play at home. Let's put 60 seconds on that clock Ready, set, hustle!
The game begins in 3, 2, 1.
Who was your childhood celebrity crush?
It was Tom Selleck, Magnum PI.
What is your secret talent?
I am very talented with my toes. I had ankle surgery and I had to do rehab, and I can pick up anything, including a little bitty pill with my toes.
That's freaky. Person you would trade places with for a year?
Ooh. I don't think I'd want to trade places with anybody for a year. You know what? I love my life, and I think that I just want to be me.
Most people say that. Weirdest job you've ever had?
I worked at a fishing camp in Ontario, Canada. I was raised at a fly-in fishing camp, and so I would be the cabin girl, the little hostess, the waitress. So that was my fun.
Biggest risk you've ever taken?
Skydiving.
Really?
I went skydiving when I was maybe 47, right after my divorce. I had a friend that was a skydiver. He was a therapist as well. And I made him promise me 3 things. Don't weigh me. Just give me the biggest parachute you got. I said, promise me I won't die. And let me land on you when we come down. So I went skydiving at the age of like 47.
That's awesome. All right. This is my fun one. Who needs a hug from you today and why?
I would either say, obviously Andrew likes hugs every day, but I would say my kids or grandkids. I think it's just because mom's there, grandma's there. I think I have a real reassuring presence for my family.
Well, I would hope so after everything that's gone on. I would look at you and be like, if you can do it, I can do it. That's kind of the mentality. You can do hard things. Once heard on the show, and it's haunted me ever since I've heard it. Thank you, Hannah. Kim, I just want to say thank you so much for what you shared. Thank you for letting us walk through not only your book, what has happened, the little nuggets along the way of what you shared today. I really value and appreciate what you gave. So thank you for that.
Thank you for having me so much. It was such an honor.
All right, guys and gals, kids and campers alike. I know it's sad already. It's the music. It does it. It's not that sad. Okay, stop. I wonder about you today is when you think about that front door, that who's there moment, do you check the Ring camera? Do you hesitantly peek through the peek hole and see who it is? You know, Kim didn't have that fortune. She didn't. That intruder just came in. It didn't wreck her life. It might have stopped it. It might have paused it. It might have maybe redirected some things. She's come out the other side. So that's my question for you is what are you walking through? What are you experiencing right now that maybe is at your front door that you're like, no way, Neil, I'm not opening that door. No. Okay. It's good to have boundaries. It's good to set those. Let's flip it around. What if it's not a life-threatening thing? What if it's something that you're just saying, I'm not going to forgive that person? No. They may be at my front door with a pumpkin pie and maybe an apple pie. Their pie baking skills suck. I'm not opening that. I'm not opening that forgiveness. No, I have no room for them in my heart, and there's not even a stable for them to get in. Nope, sorry. The room is full and the inn is full. What happens if you continue to have that unforgiveness in your heart? What happens? Let me know. Do you have a different theory than I do? Do you have a different theory than Kim does? I sure as heck would love to know it. Let me know. OPSpodcast.com is a great place to let me know. You can let me know on the socials at OPS Podcast Show under Facebook, Instagram, and X. We're there. And don't forget this when we go. It's so important. Remember, when you walk in other people's shoes, you really do get a different perspective on life. Stay tuned till next week when guess what? We're going to walk in other people's shoes.